So after all the research I conducted and all the audience researches I've done out, I have researched into existing storylines and thriller films to see what their storylines are like and what makes their storylines good and how they keep their audience interested in their storyline. I have then done a brainstorming session on a news TV show where I discussed my ideas with the TV presenter on previous ideas we've had and the stipulation of the brainstorming, how far we were along the brainstorming of the Whispers of Yesterday plotline, and gave him very light details on what the storyline is going to be, as well as previous storylines that were discussed and which I thought of, and kind of the ones that all the storylines that brought me to this final kind of plot line. At the time of the interview, the plot line was it was a brainstorming session for the news, so the plot line wasn't ready. After conducting some audience researches, not only with my first audience research, I did another audience research into specific storylines and told them my storyline of what I had and see if they had any suggestions for improvements or if they had anything they wanted to change about the storyline. I then went on to talk about what the impact that had on my storyline and if it changed my storyline at all, and to see what my audience thought about the storyline and see if I wanted to keep it as it was or if I felt I needed to change it at all from what my initial idea was. And now in this video I will reveal my final storyline in depth and just give an overall plot synopsis on what you can expect to see in the trailer of my thriller film Whispers of Yesterday. So we have a protagonist named John William Leakes. John is a private investigator. This is all setting up the film. John has a wife and child, which you do not see, and because of the private investigator line of work, it's a very hard-hitting line of work, and it gains you a lot of enemies. John does a lot of jobs of taking down drug transfers, drug busts, taking down big corporations which are screwing out their employees, all assigned by different people within that company telling him what's going on. He's not doing this by law, he's doing it because people get paid. He gets paid for doing it and he enjoys beating people up. He's not a good guy, that's the point about John. He's not a good guy. He's just a guy who needs to do what he needs to do to get through life. So now we're up to date with where the film starts. John has to fake his own death in order to protect his family from all these corporations that are finding out that they're being taken down by this man and they go after him. He fakes his own death thinking that it will save him and his family, and it turns out it was a selfish move because his wife and his daughter perish from these bad guys. John obviously finds out about this and becomes quite emotional. He smokes a lot, he drinks a lot, he doesn't tell anyone that he's still dead. He could quite easily come out, get revenge and tell everyone that he's still alive, but he doesn't. He stays dead for many a year. His niece at the time remembered him from when she was younger, and she visits his grave more or less every day. However, and he watches her. This is the one thing in his life at the moment that gives him satisfaction. Seeing his niece visit his grave every day gives him meaning, gives him something to do, go to the church and see her, and it keeps him going for this dark time. He then finds out that he notices that niece stops visiting his grave. She stops coming every day, and then he knows that something is wrong. So then he has the idea to go out. So obviously he knows where she lives. He goes to her house, and sure enough, she answers the door. Remember that his family has died. She's actually an orphan, so she obviously was fostered by a foster family. You don't see the foster parents because I didn't feel they were important. However, she's old enough to answer the door, and obviously she's 18 years old now. She's getting ready to move out into her own little house. She's in her own little house now, sorry. And she answers the door, and obviously she's more happy than anything to see Uncle John alive, but she's kind of a little bit confused on the fact he's still alive, and he's very short of her. When she says that she doesn't know where the people are that attacked her, he literally just goes and finds them on his own terms. And sure enough, he follows her without her realising, and once they're there, formulates a plan to take out one of the guys that's kind of picking on her. He takes out that guy, but then he finds out that the person that originally told him, his best friend that told him about someone going after his family, is the reason he actually really finds out about this. His niece stops coming to the grave. He then goes and talks to this guy. He's a bit upset, obviously, his wife and family have died. It's all getting to him again, and he says, look, someone's after your family. He then obviously has the idea to go and see his niece, go and beat out this guy, but then he finds out that actually he's been betrayed. This was all a setup because his best friend is actually the guy that's after him. Yes, this other guy was sent to do this by this man, but it's kind of his best friend is all planned because of him. This leads to a big fight between them, and John has to basically go back to his line of work, protecting his niece and taking out and finishing up. I like to say finishing up what he started back when he was a private investigator in his good old days. And once it's all said and done, once his niece is finally safe, he says, when his niece is safe and when he knows that he doesn't have to hide anymore, he will then be happy to pass on to the afterlife because he's a heavy Christian, John. And he feels that once he passes on to the afterlife on natural terms, he'll be able to see his wife and daughter again. And he feels that once he knows his niece is safe and that she can protect herself, he will feel more than happy to relax, pass on to the afterlife, and he hopes to see his wife and daughter again. So yes, John is a very mysterious man. No one quite knows his way of thinking, but down to the earth, he's just a guy that loves his family deeply, and he's so saddened by the loss, and anyone can relate to this guy. So that is my overall storyline. It gets audiences involved. It shows audiences that they can connect to his character because he's down to earth. It also gives them lots of action, the twist with the best friend being betrayal, lots of action with the fight scenes, different type of storyline where he actually fakes his own death. There's a lot of things in this storyline to keep the audience involved. And we're getting to that stage now where I'm going to go out and head and start to film, this trailer. So I'm very excited to get into this with the storyline I've created for Whispers of Yesterday. It fits into the title of the film because obviously this is his previous line of work is in the days before. Obviously this is years before, but it's very generic saying Whispers of Yesterday meaning a long time ago. And he does quote that Whispers of Yesterday. Anything that happened before this point are just whispers, and he takes it into practicality when he starts to beat up these people. So that is my storyline, plot synopsis, and I look forward to starting to film this film. That is what it's going to stay as, and I hope you will enjoy the next few weeks of filming to get ready for the trailer of Whispers of Yesterday.